Usually the ACL is the quick ability to try to protect the area or to modify the parent in the way that maybe you want to do a change of direction parent, and then your opponent in that case or the other players are moving around. You try to do something different that you're thinking before, and when you try to do that, the body is not ready to, and then the injury happens. So you are like saying to the body in that part of the area, hey, come on, wake up. And once this and that is not helping you, over the tendon areas, over close to the joints, because at the end will hurt you at the area structure that they are not ready to have this kind of stimulus over it. We can talk about Lamine Yamal, about Gavi, for example, about young players that, okay, they perform well one season with 17 years old in a professional environment with these kind of schedules. But that is a mistake, because also when we have the injury, we have that phase in our body or about the process that the body have to do a healing process, usually over the area in the movement of the injuries. So that means that you need also that energy to do the healing process. So usually it's going a bit up.
Welcome to the Awareness Podcast. In today's episode, we had the chance to speak with Javier Fernandez. Javier is the rehab coach for Watford FC, the championship team. He's also worked in Santos Laguna in Mexico and in Orlando City here in the US. With Javier, we went through all the process of recovering a player from an injury. So starting from the injury all the way to the moment that they're back on the field. We went to each phase that they go through to be able to recover at the highest level, and what are the main numbers that he looks at to ensure that that athlete is ready to perform. We also talked about the daily schedule of a professional athlete and how the big load that they're getting in the season is affecting the injury rate that we're seeing currently in the highest level teams. So if you're an athlete that wants to know how to train, how to eat, how to sleep, and just how to live your day-to-day life in a way that's going to help you not only be a better athlete, but be an athlete that's going to be healthier and have a longer career, then this podcast episode is definitely for you. Enjoy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the Awareness Podcast. Today, we're here with our guest, Javier Fernandez. Thank you very much for being with us, and introduce yourself to the people.
Thanks, Matt. I think that first of all, thank you too also to be here. And then in another way, Javier is just a new man that at the end sometimes we can think that, okay, we are something different because we are in a professional environment or this kind of stuff. But at the end, a guy that he wants to improve day by day. For this reason, he started to study before sports science at the first degree that I did it. Then after that, I jumped straight away to the physiotherapy degree. And then I still trying to improve in my career, professional career, with nutrition, some master degrees in different areas about the sports and the professional environment. And right now I am here in Watford as a rehab coach, and happy to be here with you today.
Of course, man. Looking forward. And Javier, I mean, the performance landscape right now in sports is very data driven. So how about we start with a piece of data? Up to 25% of athletes who suffer a major injury sustain a secondary compensatory injury, like a hamstring tear after a knee surgery, within the first year back. So they tend to compensate with another part, which leads to another injury. Considering that, how does the road back from an injury look like? I mean, in your landscape, which is the performance part and the highest level of sport, how does that injury recovery process look like? What are the different phases that you go through to make sure that those injuries that happen afterwards are avoided?
I mean, in the way that you said at the end, it's clear that when you have an injury, it's not just looking about the structure, it's looking about the whole body. It's something that is good for us because sometimes, when you're in the acute phase, for example, you cannot work maybe that much over the structure because you are still in that healing process and then in the first phase. So you cannot work on it, but that means that you cannot work in the rest of your body. Because at the end, when, for example, we have to do a change of direction, it's a lot of muscles around, a lot of joints around that is involved on it. So we have to perform in the way that all of them are in the good way to do it. So some injuries that is true that, for example, the ACL have relationship with some structures that can be, for example, the hammies, because when we have an intervention about the ACL, sometimes we have to take part of the hammies to do the intervention on it. So that is something that happened. So that means that in the future you can have issues or more options to have issues in that area, because at the end we have one body, and when you have one injury there that happened, and it's a step that I have to do then to jump forward to do the next things. But yeah, in my point of view, is try to look like the whole body, thinking like on that, just not sometimes in rehab the structure and leave the rest, and that's all.
Perfect. So not looking at the specific local area in which the injury happened, but then looking at the whole structure of the body and see how it might affect the other parts of the body. And how do you make sure that you're targeting all those different structures of the body from day one, right? So let's say you just got an athlete that got an ACL surgery, just because it's the most common one. Okay, how do you plan the recovery process to ensure that everything is being treated on?
The thing is, in things like the thing that we are doing right now, it's not maybe the best way, the podcast or the videos that, for example, we can find in YouTube, but we have a lot of research that is giving us that guides to just try to find the approach about how to do it. That research is true that are improving with the time. They are finding different things or different methods or different rules that can help us to try to improve the player. But then also we have to think that each individual is different, because like you said, at the end, these guides is giving us the approach about the ACL, but they don't know that player, he has a previous also injury in the ankle or a previous injury in the hip that also can affect the recovery process. Also, for example, when we try to work with some players, it's not the same that having the ACL one player with 17 years old that a player that he have maybe 36. So also our approach maybe had to be different for the kind of load that the player have it about the chronic load in the past, for maybe the next load that he will have in his career, because maybe just 1 year, 2 years more about the career, the thing that the players can do, and that approach. And then thinking in general, it's true that we have some tests, like isometric ones, that they can give us information about one structure, but we have to try to find the relationship between the structures. Because at the end, when we are doing, for example, a pattern about the knee extension for the activation for the quadriceps, then the hammies have to relax. So the ratios between muscles, the relationship between muscles are important too. About the stability, the important to have, for example, now the gastrocnemius, like is the soleus of the calf, and the ACL in the protecting the knee about the parent, are so important, because as much load also is taking the ankle, less will take the knee in some parents that we need. So for the reason is more than looking just one area, is try to think in general.
Definitely. And I mean, in the case of the ACL injury, what do you think are like the most common, not causes, but most common deficiencies that athletes that have an ACL injury have in perhaps other muscles? What do you see are like the biggest correlations in there?
I mean, the thing that we have to think about is that one is happening alone. The player, for example, was jumping alone, was running alone, or whatever, and the injury happened, or was what contact on it? I mean, was fighting with someone, and for the reason maybe we can find an instability in the parent that he wants to do it. Usually the ACL is the quick ability to try to protect the area or to modify the parent in the way that maybe you want to do a change of direction parent, and then your opponent in that case or the other players are moving around. You try to do something different that you're thinking before, and when you try to do that, the body is not ready to, and then the injury happens. So sometimes we are so focused in improve the strength, that obviously can help us, but it's just not the way to do it. And also it's not only to improve the strength, it's what kind of strength I needed, what kind of metrics I needed. For the reason before, we thinking just in absolute strength, like a maximum Newton that the player, for example, he can do or he can achieve in a test. But another thing that we are trying to check is, for example, metrics like the RCD, is how quick he can achieve the metrics in a short kind of period. And this kind of stuff that will give us more information.
Okay, definitely.
Let's say someone, we talked about like an ACL injury. Of course, you do a lot of testing, looking at the numbers. Is there like a final test you do with the player before he's allowed to go in the real game again?
For me, yes, the step by step. I mean, we cannot check just with one test, and that is a mistake. If you're thinking that this one test is the one that will give you the information that the player is able to, or that the player is ready to, you are missing 100% the aim that you have to do it. It's like a daily task. So obviously for the acute stage or for the early stage cannot be the same. Maybe the exercise that you have to do is more over the control. But for me, about being able to play the game, that is like the last step, is one, the player is performing well in the performance, or say, is performing well with the training, with the team, with the normal one, in the high cost environment. He is like doing small side games with the rest of the team. He's playing normal games in the training session. Okay. So maybe after that, if he can achieve also the chronic load, because in this kind of injuries, that is long time period, it's not the same that he had the ability to do one training session like that he have the ability to do that kind of training session a lot of times in a row, the player is able to go to the game because he was exposed before. So the thing that we cannot thinking about it is putting the player to do something the first time in a game. Hamstring injury, I cannot put the player to expose to a sprint in a game if he didn't before with me, if he didn't before with the team. Before he had to do it with the team before to go straight away to the games.
Yeah, it's not just the fact of them being able to do it, it's also to be able to sustain it and do it, as you mentioned, chronically in the load that the football environment provides to him, right?
Yeah.
And Javier,
and in the context about the cows, because sometimes, okay, we put it a player to sprint in a linear running alone, without people around, without a ball around, without an open context around, so it's not real. Yeah, the player can do that 100 times, doing his maximal speed. But what is happening when is things changing around? When he had it to do it after do a deceleration pattern and then do the reacceleration and then the sprint. So with that kind of fatigue on the body, and so
yeah, it has to replicate the game situations that they're gonna go through. And Javier, I mean, you've worked in Mexico, you've worked here in the US, you now work in England. I wanted to see how your work as a physical therapist changes depending on the game load that they're getting. Like, what are the differences that you see in those different countries that you've worked around, and also the patterns that you see?
I mean, right now, I can say that I am one of the tough environment that you can be, because the championship in that case, second division in UK, is one of the tough about the calendar. You have a lot of double weeks that is close, similar to, for example, the kind of calendar maybe you can have like a team like Real Madrid or Atletico de Madrid, with double games at the end with Europa League, or in that case, Champions League games, plus the normal schedule about his domestic leagues. So that calendar don't give you a lot of options, for example, to train. You have to think in sometimes more in performing the competition and then recovering the players to be able to perform again in the competition. In Mexico was different, because there, for example, the first year that they've been there, they don't have it like an international competition. So yes, you have to play the games that you play used to. And in Orlando was quite similar. Just the thing that happened when I arrived there, and also the last season or last tournament in Mexico, was that they start to play like in a competition with some teams there in US, but was a different strategy that they use, for example, here in the calendar, because the thing that they do is like they play all the games like in a month. And then in that way, it's like it's easy because they travel there, they play many games in a row, and then they don't have to travel around a lot. So yeah, that changed.
Definitely. And now, like when we talked before, you mentioned how important those areas. I mean, you only have them for around 4 hours in a day, right? So they're left for themselves like 20 hours. So I wanted to see what is the importance of the athlete having a holistic approach and focusing on things like sleep, nutrition, their daily habits. How do these different factors affect also that injury prevention aspect and the performance aspect, which go hand in hand?
I think that a lot. I mean, at the base, because at the end, it's true that training is important. Of course, we cannot say that it's not important. But like you said, at the end, the quality of sleep, the nutrition, the also mental-wise, how is the player working on it? How is his environment when he is outside the club? And what is the thing that he is doing the rest of the hour that he is not there? Is so important. So things like you are doing, for example, right now with that kind of podcasts, with that kind of information, I think that can help the player to have more knowledge. And with that knowledge, sometimes it's easy, that the player have the ability to see, okay, that is important, so I have to improve on it, because it's something that a lot of people is now started talking about it. So it should be something that is important. It's not just because someone told me one time and that's all.
Definitely. And so if we can go, we can start with sleep. So how does good sleep for you to be able to recover the right way? How does it look like? Not only how much, but then also how to have good quality sleep.
Yeah, I mean, that is the base. At the end, we have to understand that when we are training, we are putting a stimulus to the body. So sometimes this kind of a stimulus is aggressive for the body. So you are not improving when you are training. You are improving when you are resting on it. And you have the ability to adapt to that kind of load and this kind of a stimulus. So at the end, there is when the players start to change a bit the kind of approach that they are doing. So they start to understand how important is sleep and the quality of it. It's true that then different players, they will have different requirements. So we cannot say that usually say 8 hours is good for everyone because like you said, the quality is important too. So maybe some players, they need 10, 12 or whatever. So there is true that now we have some information, for example, with the heart rate variability to understand, okay, what kind of a stimulus we are giving to the player, what kind of a stimulus is the player having the ability to adapt to that. And with that can give us decisions. Also, for example, with the contra-movement jump, with some kind of test that, for example, can be the cortisol test in the saliva one. Also, is giving us information about the adaptation that the player is having it about the stimulus. But that stimulus is not only about the training, as we talk, is what they are doing in the rest of the hours that they have in the day. So if they are going to a party, they are sleeping worse. Maybe when you do that test, the player will show that he is not recovering properly. But anyway, it's telling you that you have to take care with the kind of load that you will put in his body, because at the end, the body is not ready to take it.
Yeah, and how much do you guys rely on that data that you're getting, but then also the experience or what the athlete is telling you?
I think that is something so important. Now we have the big data. We have a lot of numbers, metrics around. So it's so easy to have, for example, like on a traffic light, okay, if the player is in red, it's because he's not recovering well, or if the player is in green, it's because he's recovering perfect. But then you talk with the player and you can see like he told you anyway that is green, that is not, that the feeling that he's having is not good enough, or mental-wise he's not ready to perform well, or whatever. So for me, that is the most important thing. And I think that is something that we are losing a bit, because we are going straight away to the data and we are losing that kind of communication and approach that we are having with the player in the closer way.
Definitely. And are you going to say something, Matze?
What do you think is like, of course, you're on a professional level, everyone is like on the peak of their limits, but what do you think are the guys doing sometimes wrong, or like you realize when they come in and it's like, okay, he didn't get enough of sleep?
I mean, the thing is, you have to try to find that balance between the approach that you're having when you talk with the player and then the information that you have it at the end with the rest of the test or the things that you are doing it. It's true that, for example, now we talk about things that could be things that are expensive, like the saliva test and these kind of things. But we can check it also with the RP at the end, like on a scale that is telling you how was, for example, the last training sessions, and how is also with the readiness or the willingness test recovering the player. If we see that we have an chronic load that the player is giving us always like a 9 or 10 about the the last training sessions, and always low values or bad values about the readiness or the willingness, he can give us information that is not the first time that he's telling us. So we have to take care with it. Also in the opposite way, if we have a player that is giving us always the same kind of number in both tests, anyway that the session we know that was harder because we did it more things with more intensity, or session that was low intensity, we have to talk with the player in the way, okay, look, we are doing that to helping you, so you have to tell us the truth. You cannot put the number that you want. So that is the ability as a professional to know the player, and for the reason something talk with him is easier than just check the number.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that is not only by yourself. You know, you need to get that communication and that support from the player as well, because you're relying on whatever he's telling you. And then in the nutrition part, Javier, what do you think are like the biggest correlators to a healthy career, and what should an athlete pay the most attention to be able to perform at a high level and also decrease the risk of injury?
I mean, about the kind of energy that you are putting in your body first, because it's true that at the end, if we are not eating enough, it's true that it's not just eating enough or not, it's also the quality of that kind of food that we are eating. But if we are not eating enough and we are in a low calorie levels, the body will be not ready to perform. So that is one approach that we can do so easy. For example, when you have a car, you want to put petrol on the car. It's true that then when you go to the petrol station, you can put it petrol with better quality or worse quality, but you have to put it petrol anyway. If the petrol is not there, the car will not work. That is 100%. You cannot drive with that car. So there is the main thing. Okay, we are having enough kind of quality of the food. Okay, good. We are having enough quantity of the food. Okay, good. So with that, we can do the approach. It's true that, for example, here in Watford, in my club, we have a nutritionist that she is working on it. I am here just a rehab coach. When I did it, that the studies was before to understand better what, for example, the specialist that I have around give me information, understand better that kind of information. Sometimes also when we do the selection about the kind of training session that we can do or selection the exercise, we understand the rehab process, can give us like more tools to the way that we approach, in that case, the rehab process. But like I told you, first, quantity and quality of the food, and then we start to thinking about supplements and this kind of stuff that is like not the base.
Definitely. If you don't have your calories right, there's no point on going and thinking about how much magnesium you should be taking, right? Perfect. And now we've been talking about the injury prevention part, but I want to switch off. Let's say, okay, I have the injury, I got injured, right? Which is basically my point. So I'm kind of asking a little bit of personal questions here. How should, because a common misconception that I had before was, okay, I got injured, I don't want to get fat, therefore I stopped eating. So I was just eating a little bit. How should you approach nutrition when you get injured?
That is a mistake, because also when we have the injury, we have that phase in our body or about the process that the body have to do a healing process, usually over the area in the mostly of the injuries. So that means that you need also that energy to do the healing process. So usually it's going a bit up. It's true that there maybe is more interesting have more on the details, what the quantity, also the quality of the food, because also we know that, for example, some food can help us to decrease the inflammation in the body, if it could be interesting for us, or in the other way, putting more inflammation in the body when will be not interesting for us. Also the approach that you can do, for example, about the different macros, about the kind of training session that you are doing. You are using, for example, mainly the fats as about the main kind of fuel that you are using because your training session is with lower intensity, or you are needing, in that case, a big amount of carbs because your training session is going harder and you're with more intensity. So that kind of approach is true that maybe that you can be a bit more specific with it. But for me, that is an issue because it's true that maybe you are not training that much that you did it before, but you're still training and you're still needing that energy to repair the area.
Could you name some examples? Because you just named there's some foods that help when being injured, to anyone listening.
Yes, I mean, for example, we know that also now we have research about the antioxidant that, for example, a lot of people is taking a lot, and also more is not better because also the body, he has to be useful to do it just for his own. So we have to take care with just use supplements or taking a big amount of one kind of food, because we read that it's good for us, but omega-3 also, for example, can help us with that. Like I told you, some antioxidant, then something that, for example, can help me to try to drain it, in that case, for example, about the area. So having the control, in that case, Camilo said before, the magnesium and the sodium can help us. So that kind of things. And then, of course, try to avoid like a junk food, sugar, and that stuff that we know that they will perform in inflammation in our body and will not help us.
Definitely. And acknowledging, I mean, for me, is also, it has been acknowledging that, yeah, I have to make body composition not my priority at this point. I have to make my healing process the priority. So yeah, even though I go up a little bit, it's all for the sake of just supporting my healing process, and then after that I can focus a little bit on looking better, which is not the main priority right now, right?
Yeah, as we talk, at the end, have to be a balance. I mean, always if you are between that ratio, could be fine. You can win a bit of fat, that will be not bad. But for me, the most important during the injury is try to keep the muscle mass in our body, because that is the most difficult thing that then you will have to win again. So just try to keep with it. And then after that, if you have to lose a bit of fat, usually it could be more easy than win that muscle mass that we lost it.
Definitely. And Javier, now we're talking about, because I mean, one of the main concerns of an athlete when he gets injured I mean, at least that was mine as well, is okay, I have to stop training. I cannot train. I'm going to stop doing progress. When somebody gets injured, of course, the specific physiotherapy that you do depends on the specific injury that they had. But then what extra training can they do, like in terms of upper body? Can they train the upper body? And if so, how should they do it so it's not affecting anything in their recovery process?
Usually all of them. I mean, it's difficult to say that you will have some injuries, but it's strange that you cannot move the rest of the body. So usually all of them at the end, for example, you have an ACL as we talk. Okay, the ACL is over the knee, over one leg. What happened with the other leg? What happened with your upper body? I just say what happened with the conditional point of view. He can do an skier, sitting position. He can do a battle rope, sitting position. He can try to work, for example, in as we talk, in an environment that, for example, is warm, like in a room with another kind of temperature that can help you to perform that kind of stimulus. So try to do that approach. And also will help you just not in the mental wise. Also, we know that, for example, in the hormones about the body, will help us to try to hit the process anyway that you are not working straight away over the structure.
Yeah.
So mental wise is so important because usually when the player have the injury, of course, in our environment in football or soccer, the thing that he wants is be on the field because that is football. It's not, the gym is not football. So it's like, okay, I want to play with the ball and there is the thing that I enjoy it. But break that barrier that you cannot do nothing. And okay, you can do a lot of things anyway that is not football straight away can help them. For example, we can show videos about Courtois, for example, where he got the injury in Real Madrid doing goalie stuff. That, okay, some people can say, okay, that was silly things, the things that you are doing. But mental-wise, it's helping a lot of players. Also, about, for example, the vision, peripheral vision, that he can work on it is so important. So sometimes it's thinking more outside the box that the thing that we are used to.
Definitely. I mean, and it makes you feel like an athlete, which is that sensation that you cannot lose when you get injured. And you mentioned, just out of curiosity as well, you mentioned the training the other leg. Let's say you have an injury in one leg. Should I train the other leg as well? Or is that going to make the gap between the injured leg and the healthy leg bigger? How should that how should I manage that imbalance in there?
No, of course that you should work on it because at the end, as we talk, it's just not for the structural point of view, also neural point of view. We know the connection that they have. So working the contralateral side can help us in the other side anyway, that is the injury over it. Then over the injury side, sometimes we do the approach only to lift. But we have, for example, now the blood flow restriction. We have also the electrostimulation that can help us in the early stage to try to put it load over the area. As we talk, sometimes it's not how much you can win, like you say, okay, but I have to win. No, it's how much you can keep. And in that way, then you don't have to win that much again. So try to do that approach. Sometimes it's the best one. As early you can to do the stimulus there, could be fine.
Because I heard one time that if you train one side, the other side also gains muscle. Is that true, or is it just a myth?
No, it's true. I mean, you have some research that is telling us. Also, the thing that happened before is because we don't have this kind of tools. Just you did it like you said. You train one side and then you leave the other side at worst. But now, for example, like I told you, you are training one side and in the other side you can have like a minimum stimulus, like can be with electrostimulation, with the blood flow restriction. In that case, touch training also, touching the area, just about the sensitive point of view, have the feeling that if something happened there, can help you to improve on it.
Definitely. And Javier, I mean, we've been talking about how important it is to have ownership of your own injury prevention process and to doing the things that outside of the field that are going to help you prevent those injuries. As a physiotherapist, what are the main things that you try to tell your athletes, or like what are the main strategies that you use to let them know how important it is for them to take care of themselves?
That have the approach about the communication that we talk. Okay, I am here to help you. I will be your guide, but you have to put for yourself something more that, because I will not do the exercise. I will not live. I will not sleep for you. You will do it for your own. So you have to look for your own first. And then from there, we can try to build something. But at the end, as we talk, I will not be there with him 24 hours. I will be with him maybe training 1.5 hours, 2 hours, no more than that. And then he will be more time with the physiotherapist here in the club or with the nutritional area, or in that case also he can show some videos with the scouting and with the analyst about the things to improve in the future. So thinking more like in a general point of view, the players have a lot of things to work external to the injury. But that gives us approach to try to win them the confidence about, okay, look, you can do all of these kind of things to improve on it. I will be here to help you, but are you the one that you will do it? So
yeah, like making them aware of the importance that their part of the process is. Like it's not only relying on you, like they have to do a big part of the job. So a lot of it is just them being aware of that importance that they're part of the process is. And going back to like that injury recovery process, I just wanted to know if you broke it down into phases. Let's say like the first 3 months we try to focus on this, the second 3 months we try to focus on this, or how do you structure the return to play process for an athlete?
I mean, if you go to the research, you have different approach with different kind of phases, 4, 7, 5. But the thing that you have to do with that kind of research is just having as a guide, as we talked before, and it's helping you to have like, the order that you want to do. But for me, it's like a daily task. Okay, the player is able to do that. Okay, like he's able to do that. I can jump and step up. Or he's able to do that a lot of times, in a lot of days in a row. He don't have reaction after that. Okay, after that, I can jump and step up. So how we know that, for example, the player is able to do the sprint and do the sprint in a safety way? Because before he did high-speed running, before he did normal running, we take it the control about how his pelvis stability, we take the control about how his hip levels about the strength. We take it that part of communication that we talk with the player that, okay, you think that you are able to do that? Yes or not? Okay, yes. You think that you are able? Okay, so we will try to expose to that. Because at the end, if everything is fine, but the player said, no, I am not confident to do it, we have a lot of risk, because at the end he's giving information to his brain that he will not be able to do that.
Yeah.
So then it can happen because the body will be not ready, because the information that he is giving to his body is that it's not ready to that.
Definitely.
When talking about phases, do you guys have like a method to keep the players on a long recovery, like keep them motivated, like for the mindset? Like, I don't know, let's say every week you guys celebrate a new process.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like you say, it's more the daily things. So, for example, of course, when a player, he saw that he jumped into a next level, like, for example, start to be on the field, he will have that motivation on it. When you talk with him, for example, our approach can be, okay, when you try to find the count of numbers about the isometric test, okay, that means that you are improving on it, he will be happy with that. So sometimes it's true that, as we thought, the communication could be fine and the numbers are not that important, but in that case, sometimes the numbers are important, because you can show to the player with a mobile phone easy, with an isometric test, or with the GPS data, okay, look, that was your performance today. That is the thing that you've been doing before when you've been with the team. So you are too close to achieve that metrics. So that means that you are too close to have your normal metrics that when you are training with the team. So you are a step closer to do that. So that gives him that motivation. Then try to find also outside the training down, outside the training sessions, the motivation that, okay, if you are training, okay, for the next 2 weeks, I will give you 2 days off to go to visit your family, because maybe he's not from here, from London, and he has to take a flight. That kind of things. So just, they are humans. They are not robots. So also thinking in the personal wise, how you can try to find that motivation.
Yeah, you just mentioned about like giving them motivations every time they hit a specific goal, every time they do something specific. That's a good achievement. Just wanted to know if, let's say, for an injury like an ACL, do you have specific timelines or average timelines that you have? Let's say, okay, almost always, or the average for them to do a squat is this time, then to go back to the pitch is this time, and then to play again is this time. Do you have those type of numbers?
Yes, because like I told you, at the end, with the guys that we have about the research, each time they are a bit more specific, for example, about the times, because obviously we have more injuries. So that injuries also is giving us information about the approach that we are having with the players, about the way to do it in the best way. But like I told you, depends about the task that he did before. Because anyway, that one research is telling me that usually the player is running in the 4th month, for example, about the ACL. We can see that the player, he don't have the full knee extension. We can see that the levels of the strength are not good. We can see that the knee is still swelling when he is doing just plyometrics exercise inside in the indoor phase. And the number of contacts obviously are less than when you're running on the field, the player is not ready to. So at the end, sometimes can help us, but sometimes also could be something that is not good for us because we can try to find a way to just, I will do that one because or it is telling me, and it's not the approach to do it. So be flexible on it.
Definitely, and I love it because I've like, this is my second knee surgery that I've been through, and part of the reason for which I got injured again is because of being too tight to the timelines, right? And I was thinking, oh, in 6 months I have to be good, in 7 months I have to be good, and even though I wasn't feeling the best way, I was trying to rush it to make it there, and that ends up causing the re-injury. But like, let's say for that injury, what is the minimum amount? Because I mean, for some athletes, they might be feeling good, but you have to wait for the natural process of the tissue to heal, right? So like, what is the minimum that you should wait before going to the field in an ACL injury, for example?
The thing is, we have to find that balance. Some research is telling us that the healing process is not done 100% until the 2 years. So obviously for an athlete, it's not time to be 2 years without playing football, at least at the minute, or we are not thinking on it. So the thing that is telling us is more or less about the 6-7 months is when the risk of having an injury in the same knee is coming down, more or less like the 10%. And before to that, it's increasing like a 10% per each month. So put it a player with 4 months or 5 months that we can show some approach like that in the last years, then they had an injury again, so it wasn't like a good idea. But then in another way, also you have like an specific cases that, for example, you have players that they had an injury on the ACL, but they can still play with a conservative way without doing the surgery. Because maybe it's his last year of the career, maybe it's the competition level that he's playing is less, or maybe he's just doing then active life, so they are not being still professional, so they don't want to do it, and for the kind of stimulus that they will do it, that is stable enough for the muscle mass that they have on the legs, for the kind of injury that they had. Not all the ACL are the same, can be the meniscus affected or not, so there is a different approach.
Definitely. And now going back a little bit to the data and the technology part, what do you see are like the newest methodologies or the biggest changes that you've had in your philosophy, utilizing the new methodologies or new techniques that are coming? Like, has there been any breakthrough in injury prevention and recovery that you're currently utilizing?
Yeah, I mean, before, when I was in a 5th, 6th division in Spain, I hadn't GPS. So I did my rehabs without GPS. Then when I started to use it, was in Orlando and in Mexico, was the first time. I can use it, but not always, just for some sessions, because the players at that time, they don't have the ability to use the GPS daily for the rehabs. And with that, I started to learn on it. And I start to be like just focus on the metrics, focus on the numbers. And I think that during the last 3 years, since I am here in Watford, I try to start to be a bit more flexible, thinking that it's just not the data, thinking to look also with my eyes what is happening on the field, the kind of demand that we have from the game, thinking a bit more outside that. And that one helped me to know, okay, you say new tools that we can have it are important. I think that in the last year, maybe GPS are the one that everyone uses, just not Rehab Coach, also Performance Coach, because he's giving us a lot of information, and it's true that it's helping us, but you have to take care with the decision that you take just because the data.
Yeah, and what is like the most valuable information that the GPS can tell you?
I mean, it depends about the kind of injury that you have. For example, we know, for example, that about the hammies is happening more, for example, in sprint parents or deceleration parents situations. Then about the ACL, usually it's more like a change of direction, so deceleration and acceleration parents, so more like a neuromuscular point of view. Then, for example, for a soleus, maybe the total distance that they are running and accelerations can be more important. So depends on the kind of the injury, the approach that you can do. But for me, the thing that we have to start to thinking about it is the GPS. If you take it now, daily GPS, then you can have 1,000 metrics. and
Yeah.
it's thousand metrics. So you cannot find to try to find someone in all of them, because of course, if you try to find someone in all of them, you will find it.
You'll
So
find it.
yeah, try to clear your way to work, or in your kind of program that you want. Be focused in the main ones, and from there try to do your work as best you can.
Yeah, I think it's very important, like not using all the data, but actually the one that you're going to, that's going to give you some value, and the one that you're actually going to be able to optimize.
Yeah.
Thing. Were you going to say something, Matze?
I wanted you mentioned earlier like the heavy schedule in the championship, and how do you guys adapt to it? And what do you think? Is it destroying football? Because you can see in social media everyone is talking about it.
Yes, but the thing at the end is where the problem comes. Players still having big salaries. Us as a staff also, we want to win more money. So to win more money, you have to try to find a way to play that money. So at the end, sometimes the calendar have more games, and that the TV, they have to pay more. We have to sell more tickets, and that stuff, you can help it to achieve it. The way to try to change that, I don't know, to be honest, because at the end, it's true that some people is thinking about it like maybe have more number of players in the squad, more change that is having now, for example, more people on the bench to give you more options. But at the end, the thing that happens is the head coach or the gaffer, in that case, they trust usually in the same player because are the best one. It's difficult to have 32 players, 31 players with the same level.
Yeah.
And in that case, their career or their work about the gaffer also depends about the results. So he will want to put the best ones always on the field. So
Definitely.
so that is the thing. So I think that we have to try to find a solution, 100%, but I don't know what is the solution, to be honest.
So it will take some time to get some more data. Because like in Champions League, you can see the team Bodo Klimt.
Yeah.
And I heard like the Champions League games are the only ones. I don't know if it's their season started now, but at the start of the year, there was the only games they were playing because the season didn't start. And
the calendar is different.
Maybe the quality is not better of them, but they definitely seem fitter.
I mean,
Yeah.
they've been scoring some bangers. So, and Javier, just to finish this part off, I wanted to ask you if you could give like a piece of advice of something that a young athlete can do to have a healthier career. I know there's a lot of things they can do, but just like the main things that they have to do to be able to have a healthy career, what would you advise them?
Be focused on the base. For me, that is the most important thing. Like we talk at the end, we have each time more tools. For example, if we go for the sleep quality or sleep quantity that we talk, we can wear the iron. You can wear, for example, the Apple Watch or a watch that is giving you information, or a band like the Whoop that is giving you information. You can wear the glasses. You can put it infrared light. You can wear whatever you want. But at the end, if you are still with the phone until the 12 p.m., if you are mental-wise not in the best way that you can, if you are having your dinner, for example, too late, that we know that is not good for the body, or you are taking, for example, some drinks with caffeine on the night, will not help you. So at the end, try to find the best thing that you can do for keep that pace in the best way. So nutrition, as we talk, the training, that is something that you should, and the sleep and the rest. And from there, try to be focused in the rest.
Love it. Sticking to the basics.
I think it's like in football, there's no point on going to try to do I don't know, a bicycle kick if you don't know how to control the ball, you know. So you have to like first do the basics, so then you can get into the more fancy stuff. That of course is good, but it's not gonna work if you don't have the fundamentals dialed in, right?
Of course, it's like we talk. The thing is, now we have a lot of industry that also they are interested in trying to solve things because of the business. So I know that it's tough, but it's the way that we have to do it. Definitely. Because if not, you are losing the control about your body.
Great, Javier. I mean, you just gave us an insider's look into like what the highest level of performance looks like, and the injury prevention part of things. And it's just a lot of things that a lot of people don't really pay attention to or don't really think about. But just by doing simple things, you can increase the chances of having a healthier career, as you mentioned. Just sleeping the right way, eating the right way, and training in the right way, just paying attention to how your body feels. So I think the people watching the podcast will get a lot of value from this. So I appreciate you just sharing all those insights. So just wanted to see if you were good to do some rapid fire questions. So just quick questions so you can reply them fast, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I will try it. And then about the thing that you said, also one thing that we have to say is usually are the less expensive ones. They are the cheaper, so you can do it as a university athlete. The professional ones can do it, and the child that are they are in the school, they can do it. So
It's like if you would say something, like if you would say that about something else, it will get more buy-in. But it's just the thing is, it's hard to think that the things that are going to give you the best result are the things that are going to cost the less. But
yeah.
people always try to go for the most expensive ones first. So Javier, ice baths, yes or no?
Depends
On what?
on the kind of the day that you are on the week, what is your aim with it. So for example, if it's a day that you put in the strength and your main aim is try to adapt to this kind of stimulus, it's not the day to do it. If you, for example, in a calendar that you have a lot of games in a row and your idea is try to prepare as better as you can and try to recover as quick you can, maybe straight away after the game can be an option. Then we have some research that is telling us that also warm water or sauna, for example, can help us in the same way. I have a lot of athletes that, for example, they are from Africa, so ice bath, they don't like it because at the end it's cold and they are not used to do it. So it's tough sometimes, but the approach that we have to do sometimes is that it depends and be flexible. Don't think that it's just good or not.
I heard the other day, like a guy saying, like, if your athlete is gonna be miserable in the ice bath and he's not actually going to recover, he's gonna be suffering, and that's the whole contrary purpose of what you want.
Because he will be thinking that it's not helping him because he is there struggling for it. So
yeah.
So Sam, in our team, we have one African guy. He hates the ice bath every time we do it. So next question. Can you name one situation where a massage gun is helpful and one situation where it's hurtful?
Helpful, for example, for the activation, we know how to use it, more for the neural point of view, in the way that at the end you are putting a stimulus over the area. So you are like saying to the body in that part of the area, hey, come on, wake up. And one situation that is not helping you over the tendon areas, over close to the joints, because at the end will hurt you at the area structure that they are not ready to have this kind of stimulus over it.
Okay, I see. And does taping an athlete's ankle every game actually protect him?
The same depends. At the end, they have previous injuries, so the ankle is not stable because the chronic injury that they had on the past is giving that information that is not stable enough. Maybe they have to wear it. Never you had it an issue before. Always when you are doing of the kind of exercise like a change of direction, that stuff, you are feeling well and you don't have any issues, you don't have to. So the body should be able to protect yourself. Always when we talk at the end, he's used to do it. So the foot code is working okay. Then the rest of the parents about your body is helping to that ankle is working in the right way.
Definitely. Perfect.
When is playing through the pain a pro mindset, and when is it a career-ending mindset?
Career-ending mindset when you don't feel able to do the thing that you have to. In the thing that we talk at the end, professional-wise, they have a lot of things around. It's like in a normal work. You have to wake up every day and train and try to be focused on it. So when you start to thinking that you are losing the control of that and you are not ready to perform in that way to have over the control, the thing that will help you to perform on the field, I think that you should do a step on the side or a step back and have the situation that, okay, it's good enough. Because if not, then the injury happens and you are not on the way to be in that case, one thing that you enjoyed before in that way, in that bad way.
Yeah.
And then the mindset, for me, be curious. Be someone that asking about things, want to learn about the process, and this is the most important for me. Someone that is not always in the comfortable zone, and he want to know more and improve on it.
Perfect. And Javier, I mean, you guys travel a lot. You have a lot of different games. So what do you guys do to ensure that the legs are fresh and the legs are feeling good when you have to travel, when you have an away game?
I mean, we have good luck, to be honest, because at the end, here in England, the travel that we have maximum is 4 hours by 5 hours, 6 hours by bus, no more than that, 4 or 5 hours. Not like the US, but then the distance that you have between the cities are so big, you have to pick always the plane because it's not chance to travel somewhere. So just the thing that we usually do is when we play in the afternoons, we try to do like an activation in the mornings, just try to do some mobility, a walk around to help the players to move a bit the body after the travel. And then also the physios, they work with them in the evenings, for example, in the hotel, so the night before the game and also the morning before the game, to try to move the body in the way that at the end we know that be stuck in the same position for a long time is not good. So try to do that.
Perfect, definitely.
And then I don't know, are you still good for the time? Like maybe 5 more minutes?
Yeah, of course.
So tomorrow we have a game against Wrexham at 3:45.
Yep.
And how does a pre-game day look like? I don't sorry, like on the day, how does the day look like? Like breakfast, I don't know, you have rehab routine, lunch.
Yeah, I mean, for tomorrow it's a bit different because we play 7:45 here in UK. Yeah, maybe that was the difference. Don't worry.
It's my local time.
It's 7:45 because it's like a midway game. So usually it's in the midway. We don't play that early because at the end the fans they cannot usually go to watch the games. So it's a bit different in that way. We play at home. So the thing that they do is the players they come here at the club. They take the breakfast in the usually canteen that we took it. They will do like a small activation, a video meeting with the gaffer to review something, and that's all. And then for me as a rehab coach, normal day. I go there at the same time as usual. I work with the rehabs because when they are in that process, at least that they are modified with the team, they have a different schedules, different kind of times. So yeah, it looks like that. Then after that, they go to the hotel to sleep a bit, have a nap, rest, and then take the bus and go to the stadium. Then after the game, they have the lunch also the canteen there to have the dinner and go home, sleep, and next day back to work again.
Perfect. And I mean, Javier, to finish it off, I mean, we've been talking about the amount of load that the athletes are getting right now. Is it possible for the athletes to actually play at 100%, or are you just like, is it possible for them to play at 100% if they're playing every 3 games?
Yes, but the thing is, for how long they can do it. So we have cases that, for example, is happening now with young people. We can talk about Lamine Yamal, about Gavi, for example, about young players that, okay, they perform well one season with 17 years old in a professional environment with these kind of schedules. But we know that we are able to keep like that until when? 26, 27, 36, because we have Modric, we have players like Lewandowski with 36, 40 years old.
Yeah.
But before, when they was young, they wasn't in that environment with that kind of skills. So at the end, it's something that we don't know. It's something that maybe in the future we will have more information, and maybe we will have to try to change the approach about any way that the player is ready to play because the quality that he had is good enough to be in that environment, in that kind of level. We have to manage the situation in a different way, but we don't know yet.
Definitely, Javier. I mean, the last question is just a piece of advice for young athletes, but I mean, you already talked about how just sticking to the fundamentals and sticking to the basics is the main thing that they should be focusing on. So I wanna leave it on that note. And again, Javier, I mean, I'm truly thankful for you being willing to just share your knowledge, share your experience with us, not only with us, but then also for every athlete watching it, because I think all these concepts are applicable to every athlete, and they will really appreciate just your willingness to speak to them. So again, I'm really thankful for it, man, and just looking forward for the next one.
Thank you too, and whenever you want, I'll be available for you. At the end, I think that the thing that you are doing for the community and the case for the young players are so good, because as we talk at the end, you can find information everywhere, but not always about professionals that are right now in the environment and the right ones. So thank you too, and keep going in the way that you are doing it, that you will help a lot of people with it.